Hello and welcome to this new edition of the Foojay Podcast. Today I'm traveling from Belgium to the other side of the world, but still crossing only one time zone to arrive in South Africa.
Welcome to the Foojay Podcast, all your news about OpenJDK.
Once a month in this podcast, we talk about the history of a Java user group and the people behind it. Today we are traveling to Cape Town and Johannesburg to learn more about its Java communities.
Hello, guys. I'm Steven, and I'm the coordinator of the Cape Town Java user group. And from here in Cape Town, we normally do one event every month. And I enjoy sharing knowledge with other developers and also making connections as well.
I'm Corneil du Plessis. I'm the sole organizer of the Jozi-JUG at the moment. Jozi is, let's call it a nickname for Johannesburg. And we actually started the JUG in, I think it was late 2007, getting together in a coffee shop or restaurant, a small group of people, and eventually hitting meetings up to 100 people at a time, monthly. And but COVID has thrown a spanner in the works of getting together. But that's something we'll elaborate on later. I've been using, or let's say involved, or following Java from the very start. And in 1998, I felt it was approaching maturity for what we needed to build applications. And my first application went into production in early 99 at a large international banking group in London, serving 1,500 users, using Tomcat and an applet and a web app, and leveraging an existing systems backend. And we built other parts as part of that project that's actually still in production today. So I can attest to the longevity of Java, and I've been involved in various projects, contributing bits of pieces here and there. And during COVID, I decided why shouldn't I be doing the job that I absolutely would love to have? And I made a list and sent out my CV, and I got an offer from number one. And I'm working for the Spring team at the moment as part of VMware now, VMware by Broadcom. We've just been acquired. And I'm enjoying it very much.
Mm-hmm. And I'm Frank, creator of this podcast for Foojay, the Friends of OpenJDK, partially involved also in the BJUG, the Belgium JUG. So I'm doing this podcast also to learn myself how to organize JUGs and be a better Java community member. So I live in Belgium, you live in South Africa. Here it's snowing, which doesn't happen a lot in Belgium. So what's weather like? What should I know about South Africa at this moment?
Well, we in Johannesburg, we have what would be deemed as relatively mild weather, because we only go below zero a few days a year, and that's usually in July. And we rarely go above 35 C. That actually happened quite a lot in November and December. So it has been changing.
Mm-hmm.
Johannesburg is 1,600 meters above sea level, which is it's on the top list of metropolitan areas at a high altitude, which brings with it interesting problems like air quality measures has to be different, and we have none. So a lot of people suffer with allergies and stuff, and I think air quality impacts a lot of people, and they don't even think about it. But South Africa is a country full of very generous, loving people. In spite of what you might read or see, I think the average South African is loving and generous, and very welcoming. When I speak to tourists who've been here, they all say the same thing. They feel welcome, and it's a country with a lot of variation. I mean, Belgium is very homogeneous in terms of geography and population, but South Africa, we have desert, we have rainforest, we have savanna, we have something of everything. We have a long coastline. It's a very interesting place.
But Belgium is only 300 kilometers across, and I just checked. There's 1,400 kilometers between Johannesburg and Cape Town.
Cape Town, yeah.
So,
yes.
How is the situation in Cape Town? How
Cape Town, yeah. So, Steve, tell us.
So, Cape Town, I would say, is where the life is. The people in Joburg, they don't really have much of a life. I'm joking. I would say the difference is like in Joburg, from my experience, Joburg is more business-based, as in there's more industry, people are pushing, hustling, and all those kind of things. Whereas Cape Town, it's a bit relaxed. So here we have activities that we do. We can go hiking, the Table Mountain, which used to be, I think, one of the 7 wonders. I'm not sure if it's still there, but I think that list changes. So we do have Table Mountain. We have also the coastal line. So like on a day-to-day basis, you can, after work, some people go for surfing, depending on which year of which season you are in. So normally here we have, I think it's the Mediterranean climate, where we receive our rainfall in winter. And then our summer is dry, which I like that part, because I wouldn't like to go to the beach and then you get rained upon. So at least during summer, it's dry. People then go out. But also in terms of the temperatures, February is like our hottest month. But also I think due to global warming, we have started seeing temperatures going up. Like today, it's like 37. According to the weather, they're saying we're going to reach 37. So, and we still have February to come. So I don't know how hot it's going to become. But I think it's different to Joburg, because this is a coastline. So there's a little bit of a breeze. So though the temperature might be hot, but at least there's a balance of the sea breeze that you get. So I would say in a nutshell, that's Cape Town. We have more things to explore. You feel at home. You get to see nature when you are around Cape Town, and there are other activities as well that you can do. So I think that's about it.
So at the moment, we have more than 40 degrees difference between where I am and where you are.
I've got a little anecdote. So in 1993, I had developed a C++ training course, and I was presenting it in various places, and I got to do one in Cape Town.
Mm-hmm.
So now this was a week course. And the first day, everybody was adamant that we have to arrange the schedule so that they needed to leave by 3 o'clock because half of them wanted to go surfing.
Yeah.
And then I said, but then we'll have to start at 8, and they wouldn't budge. And I said, well, it's we'll have to then half lunchtime, and they would, no, we're not going to half lunchtime either. So it was an interesting experience, but yeah, I would agree with Steve's assessment. It's a bit more laid back. A few years later, I was doing a project, and we with hardware involved, and we needed a certain kind of component, and we my colleague who was the hardware engineer took out the book with all the component specs, and the stamp for the local distributor was actually showed the head office is in Cape Town. So he said, "Oh, they right here. We'll be able to get sorted quickly." And the one person who was there, he's actually was the guy usually involved in sourcing hardware, and he said, "No, I'll phone Joburg, and you can phone head office." And the guy phoned Joburg. He got his contact. The guy got in his car. He drove to Joburg, the international airports, handed them a package and said, "Get it on a plane. I'll have somebody go and pick it up at the airport in Cape Town." And they sorted it out. And it was on the plane before they found somebody on the Cape Town side who could tell them where to get the hardware. And after that, I said, well, then Cape Town is a place where nothing happens before 9 o'clock, and 9:15, it's finished. It is laid back, and yet it things happen. I mean, it's the birthplace of AWS, and or more specifically, I think the bulk of EC2, and that was built in Cape Town.
Corneil, you shared your history in Java. Stephen, if we come back to you, how did you get into Java development?
So I got into Java development 12 years ago. And how it started was through college. So I attended varsity, and there we were taught all these different programming languages: C, VB.NET, Java, C Sharp, and all those kind of languages. But I think for me, I saw Java as there was structure, it was stable, you could follow in terms of the changes that they are doing. You couldn't just wake up and then a particular function is gone and nobody told you in advance what's going to happen. So from there, that's when I then picked Java as like my mainstream language. So I then started working on Java projects from Java SE, Java EE, and then right now I'm also working with Spring. So during all that time, I worked across different industries from from finance to vehicle tracking, also asset management, and also some gambling or online betting type of companies. And I would be responsible with the implementation of the backend of the platforms. So that's how I got to work with Java. And yeah, I still like Java, and I will continue working with it. Then the other languages are just a supplement on top, because like now I'm a full stack developer. So on the front end side, I also work with other frameworks like Angular, React, and Vue.js. So I do like a bit of both, but my main stronghold is the backend, which is Java. So I would say, in a nutshell, that's how I started working with Java. I think from when I came to South Africa, I started staying in Joburg for 2 years, working there in Bedfordview. So, like what Corneil was saying, where people travel quite a lot to come to work. I think there was a guy. He was coming from, I can't remember now, but somewhere in Soweto. After Soweto, somewhere there's a town where. So that guy was traveling like 60 k's to come to work. So to and fro, he would travel like 120. So
Probably Randfontein.
it's more like an Indian community.
Oh, okay. Yes. Lenasia or
Lenasia, yes. So he was coming
yes.
from Lenasia going to Eastgate. So it was quite a distance. So then
At least it's highway all the way.
at least it was highway. Then I moved to Cape Town. But I think when I arrived to Cape Town, I just felt at home. And I don't think I would consider going back to Joburg. But
So you moved to Cape Town, and how did you get involved in the Java user group there?
Okay, so when I arrived in here in Cape Town, the Java user group was there. I think they had already started in like 2015. I think Herman and the other guys might have more info. So I then joined the meetup group on meetup.com. But by then I wasn't active, so I was still trying to figure out which is which. And being Cape Town, it has got also a lot of things. So I was going around seeing the wine farms and all those kind of things. But then I think around 2018, 2019, somewhere there, the person who was leading the Cape Town Java user group then said they now had commitments and they could not proceed with the leading of scheduling events and all that. So then they put up a note on the meetup to say if there's anyone who is interested in stepping up so that the community can continue, they are willing to reach out. So that's when I reached out and then got to know Herman. And then from there on, that's when I then started becoming actively involved in the organization and planning of the user group. So so I think for me, just what got me to be involved was just taking that leadership role, where you go to plan, you come up with a plan, and also having to work with others to make to achieve the goals. So and just to keep the Java community present, so that people can know that you are there as developers. Because as we go along, there are so many things that happen. New languages come in, and then sometimes developers, they tend to become more like confused. Should I leave this one? Should I go with what? But when there is more like a community of people that you are sharing the same knowledge with and in ideas, it's more like gives you that certainty that there is continuity. Tomorrow, you're not just going to wake up in Java. It's just obsolete. So,
And Corneil, you mentioned that the JoziJUG exists already a longer time. Were you part from the start, or you joined it later?
Yes, I was attending meetings from the start, and but I only got more involved in about 2011-12 when I started speaking and giving talks, and in 2013-14, I can't remember exactly which, they asked me if I wanted to become one of the co-organizers. I said, yes, fine. And I think most of the organizers have emigrated. So we lost quite a few. I mean, Rory Preddy was one of the organizers as well, but he joined Microsoft and he's on their developer advocacy side, and it makes it very difficult for him to stay involved on the organizing side. So he would still give talks or join, especially when we were online. He would join for the talks, because when you do our online meetup, it's useful to have other people present that act as the audience, because you don't have a real audience, and the speaker that doesn't want to feel like he's alone.
Mhm.
So, but since about I'd say 2017, 18, I've been doing most of the organization. Yeah, it's been interesting and challenging, especially since COVID. And we're now actually end of the month doing our first in-person meeting again. We feel things are stable in terms of COVID.
What's
And
stable?
yes, and I think it's time
Yeah.
that we start meeting in person again. We'll see what the attendance is like, but yes, it's been interesting.
But didn't you do already virtual talks?
Yes, we did a lot of virtual.
I was a speaker once in South
Yes,
Africa. I've never been there in the country, but I
yeah,
was a speaker.
yes, no, you joined us virtually. We had quite a few virtual talks, and but that I saw the numbers going down and down and down and down, and I realized, especially when everybody was working from home, it's if you spent half your day on Zoom, you don't want to now do another. It's just another Zoom meeting.
Mhm.
Um, it's I think people are just uh, uh, zoomed out. They want to shut down
Mhm.
and feel like they're leaving work, and this didn't feel like leaving work.
Yeah.
So I could see the numbers going down. I got to a point where it wasn't really worth it,
Mhm.
because we were like down to 5 or 6 people at a time. It didn't feel the same anymore. So that's why eventually I stopped that, because I was funding that myself out of my own pocket. And I mean, it was easier to get people to organize a venue and buy pizza for 50 people than to get them to sponsor a Zoom license. So I said, no, we'll have to go back to getting people involved and get the community in the room and just get people to see each other, because I think that's a big part of it. If I look back at conferences, the things I remember are the conversations I had with other attendees,
Yeah.
and the same thing with Java meetups. The conversations you have before and after are the things that the connections you make, and ideas you share, and the questions that are asked. That's I think what makes a difference.
Yeah, indeed. So you say you have your first online in real life event again.
Yes.
Is that also the case on your side? How did COVID impact the Cape Town JUG?
So COVID really impacted us because I remember when COVID started, we had planned an event and it was an in-person event. So I was really looking forward to that event. I think I was also going to give a short uh, talk as well on the schedule. So yeah, I had planned as well, and then COVID just happened, and we had to cancel everything. So during that time, we resorted to online meetups. And I think it was a blessing in disguise on my end, because normally when we meet up, we would do it on ourselves, like amongst ourselves. But now, because it was online, we're able to invite other developers across the globe. So it also opened that door that we had to invite other people. During the COVID, it then opened up doors for us. We were able to invite other speakers from across the globe. We had speakers like Edson Yanaga. He used to work for Red Hat. I think now he's with Google. We invited Mary, I think it's Galensky, he's working with IBM. And Eyal and some other speakers that we managed to invite. So it felt as if our reach was more, as opposed to when we were just the Cape Town one, because we'd find speakers amongst ourselves. Then we started with our face-to-face meetups last year. That's when we started, and yeah, it's been going well. The attendance is okay. Yeah, like more people will RSVP, but probably you get 50% of those people that will then jump. Yes. So I think it's been going well. We try to at least have like one event per month. But sometimes also it can be challenging to find a speaker.
What's on your agenda, Corneil, for the next JUGs? So you said the first in person again?
Yes. So we actually have one of your colleagues, Simon Ritter, is visiting, and they reached out and said if we want to plan anything, and I said, well, now there's an opportunity to kickstart, because on the one hand, it will attract more people than normally, and I haven't seen him in a while. I was lucky to meet him, I think in 2016 when he was here, and a few times since. So he's going to speak at this meetup. And then we have a few sponsors that we're basically planning ahead. I'm reaching out to find talks. I think that the one thing about having a local user group is that you get local people to contribute, which is both a challenge but also rewarding, because you see people elevate their game. Because I mean, there's this saying that goes around. I heard it when I was young, when somebody said, they who can do and they who can't teach. But that's untrue, especially in IT. You don't get to stay a teacher in IT if you can't, unless you've got tenure at a university. But at a meetup, you can't come and talk about something you don't know about. It just doesn't work. You're going to fall on your face. So I've always found that there's nothing that challenges you more in increasing your knowledge and rounding out your knowledge than preparing for a talk. And so I've seen people, especially we would do a what we call a lightning talk evening. So then we'll have 3 or 4 15-minute talks. And it's actually challenging to prepare a 15-minute talk. But for people who are just starting, it seems like less of a a less scary thing to do than being the only one speaking and having to speak for half an hour or 3/4 of an hour. So we've had people um, prepare lightning talks and do something interesting, and then they feel comfortable to do more. We've had people move up from starting at the JUG, and now they're international speakers. Some of them are living abroad and working for large companies. So it's interesting to see that journey. And even though somebody might bring a topic that you think you know, they might always introduce you to some aspect that you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And for people who might not understand something 100%, having a new person introduce the topic is always useful, because they bring a slightly different approach.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's always something to gain.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you think you're an expert on the topic, you might learn something, or you get to contribute. You get to help answer a question when somebody puts up their hand and asks a question, and the speaker says, I'm not sure. And somebody else says, well, how about this? And that's when it gets interesting.
Yeah,
Feels
agree.
weird when they end the talk and they open up for questions and there's no questions. And they feel like a comedian who hasn't had a single laugh, because you want to invite questions.
I see that
It's
questions are being asked more at the JUG than at a conference. At a conference, you are with a few hundred people in the room. A JUG is smaller. You're closer to the presenter. You already had eye contact. So I feel it's a lot easier to ask questions at a JUG.
definitely. I think it's a matter of people are scared. I mean, usually if it's a conference, there's few people they might know. It might even be international. So they're scared to stand up and expose their limitations. I mean, in IT, you have to accept that nobody can know everything.
Mm-hmm.
We are always learning. And if you think your job is going to be to know everything, then you've got a problem, because that's not it.
Yeah.
You must know where to go to find answers. And one of them is to attend meetups and ask questions. And yes, I see people are more willing to ask questions, especially if it's a small group, or if they've attended more than once. Yes.
Yeah, agree. And also an important fact that you pointed out is starting as a speaker, that a JUG is an ideal playground to test and talk. And you're right, we will have lightning talks at the BJUG next week. I'll give one as a preparation of a talk I will give at FOSDEM, another conference.
Yes.
So again, the JUG is my testing audience.
Testing ground. Yes. Yes.
And by the way, you're completely right. A 15-minute talk is way more difficult than a long talk because it's too much I want to talk about, and I have to condense it and go.
Yes. But
only.
that's the thing, is actually you have to condense it down to 15 minutes, and then you expand it by just saying the same thing in different ways. Because if you bring too much, you overwhelm your audience. My aim is usually just to leave them, okay, I want to know more about this topic, and now I'll go and research, because it's not a lecture, it's not a training session. I can't teach you everything. I can interest you in the topic, and I can tell you where to find more information. I can show you something interesting. one of the ones I enjoyed most was my very first lightning talk. And it was just after Spring Data was launched. I did a lightning talk on Spring Data, and seeing people light up to the fact that I just declared an interface and the method signature is translated into a query blew their minds. And that's all I wanted them to understand is that and they all went, wow, yes, I want to know more. And but if you have to do now half an hour or 3/4 of an hour, you know, I have to elaborate on this, and it's not needed because them now investing their time to discover is when the real things happen and the real learning happens, because there's no learning other than really doing. You can't really learn programming from or aspects of it just by listening to a talk or watching a video. You have to get in there and do it. So if I can um, convince you to do that or influence you to go and learn by yourself, then I think I've achieved my goal. And for me, that's always, if I see one person's face light up and you can see they've grasped it, then I'm happy. Then I've achieved something.
I'm sure that everything I'm using as a developer are things I picked up from conference talks, videos, a book. We are in such a fast evolving environment that we have to keep up, and JUGs are really great to get that knowledge. Stephen, same question for you is what are the future plans for your JUG? Do you already have next meeting scheduled?
So starting this year, we already have our event scheduled for the 1st of Feb. We're just fortunate enough to find a speaker, Simon Ritter from AZU. So he is visiting Cape Town, and then he reached out and say, please, can I then do a talk on Java? So he's gonna be here, and we already published the event. So we're just gonna try and maintain the momentum, finding global speakers, finding local speakers, and at least try an event once a month or maybe once in 2 months. So that's the future plans. There are also other suggestions, like maybe doing something like what do you call it? More like coding challenges. There's that term that we use. It's to ran away now. More like hackathon type of thing. So we haven't done that, but I think it's something nice to explore and just try something new and see the response and how it goes. So I think that's how the plans and of how we are approaching this year.
Can you remember your most remarkable session or something which went completely wrong?
I would say the most remarkable session, I would just remember probably the recent events. There was an event that we did last year. I was presenting on that event. It was mainly about microservices. So, and it was also a what do you call it, a physical meetup. So I would say after the presentation, there was a lot of positive feedback from the people that attended. So it really went well. It also helped with the next event. Those same people, they also invited other people to come. So I would say, yeah, that event really went well. The ones that did not go well, I wouldn't say there are some that did not go well. I'll just say probably there are challenges sometimes in terms of the organization of the meetups. So we need tools to use. So I think Corneil touched it on a bit that he was also financing from his pocket some of these things. So like now we don't have a sponsor for Zoom, which is more of the tool that is flexible in terms of what we want to achieve. So now we have to use the free version type of softwares like AirMeet and all those kind of, and then it poses a challenge because normally they will just give you an hour, and your hour also starts if you are the organizer, then you start the meeting and then people are 10 minutes late, or then it's already eating up into your presentation time. So in the end, the final output, like if you then want to share something afterwards, you are not going to have that final output that you envisioned before starting the meeting. So I would say those are the challenges that in the end you then feel like, oh, okay, it didn't go well. But in terms of the actual content or the actual presentation, you get positive feedback from the people that would have attended.
Yeah, that's the answer I most of the time get. Each event is good. Even if the demo fails, you learn from the error that happens. So
Yeah.
if there's a bad session, then it's probably because something happened with organization stuff, or someone got sick or was delayed, stuff like that. But a session, once it started, it's always productive. Is that the same impression you have, Corneille?
I can tell you about the worst one we had, and that was probably there's a South African who lives in Andorra, Skalk Cronje. I don't know if you've ever met him, but he's actually involved in, I think, the Barcelona JUG as well. But he was visiting family in the country and reached out, and we organized a meetup for him to speak. Everything organized, and we had a RSVP of about 80, which meant we would probably have between 30 and 50 people. And then during that day, there was a riot in Johannesburg, and people were sent home early. So he arrived, and it was me and one other of the organizers, and one person attended. And they were walking distance from the event, and they were unaware that there was a riot in Johannesburg. So we had one attendee and one speaker and 2 organizers and a whole lot of pizza. And he gave his talk, and we all learned something. But purely the fact that there was hardly anybody there was painful. The attendee went home with T-shirts and boxes of pizza, and we had quite a laugh about it. Skalk was very gracious, and he understood the situation. But that's the worst kind of thing that can happen, is something completely external.
Yeah, indeed.
Disrupt you completely.
But as someone said before in one of these podcasts, it's not about the number of people that join. It's just all the people that are there are the right people. They come for your topic, for your talk. They want to hear what you're going to tell. So, okay, maybe 3 is a bit really low number, but it's all really the people that need to be there or there. So
I can't think of our best one. We've had a lot of good ones. I think the greatest fun we had was when we had hackathons. We had one where I think it's an IBM sort of platform. You code your own little racing bot, and you participate in in racing. So the bot gets feedback as to where what the track looks like and where the other racers are, and you have to code a bot, and then they race against each other. And that was great fun. Probably because I won, I enjoyed it more than most. But it was, it's that kind of thing is a lot of fun, but it's actually the most challenging to organize. Because you need different kind of setup. Everybody needs to be able to sit down with a computer, and you need a challenge that can fit in the time frame. Now, in this case, we gave them everything weeks in advance, so they could code their bot. And at the day, we had multiple challenges. So that was interesting.
Stephen, you already have an idea for your hackathon?
Yes, I not really. I only have the broad idea, but not the objectives as to okay what's needed. So I think Connie might also assist there in terms of okay what are the options? Where can we get, like, let's say those bots? Where are you going to get the hardware and all those kind of things? So it's just something that is on the agenda, but it needs to be planned as to where are we going to get the things and how are we also going to conduct it.
But those are nice plans for 2024. So you have a whole year in front of you.
Yes.
Let's wrap up. We're nearly at an hour. Where can people find your JUG? I have the meetup pages already of JoziJUG and Cape Town Java Meetup.
Yes.
Please share the links with me. I will add them to the show notes that people can find both your JUG and you online, both LinkedIn, Twitter, Mastodon, whatever. We'll add it to this show. To the show notes of this podcast. Is there anything left that you want to ask or tell the listeners of this podcast?
One thing that I would love to see is actually a place where JUG organizers can interact and share ideas, because I think that's something that'll be very useful. Maybe because I think there's a JUGs channel on Foojay,
On the Foojay,
and maybe that's a good place to do it, because if there's nothing that says if one JUG has done something, nobody else should be able to do it. In fact, if it works, share it, and because that's when the real magic happens. And we used to have this was part of one of our end of year things. So we usually had an end of year meetup that was a bit different, and so that's something that I would love to see, because that's where you share ideas and you get inspiration.
Yeah, and for you, Stephen?
Yes. I think from my side is if we can get more sponsors in terms of the tools that we use to organize. I think we have a sponsor for the meetup.com, which is Microsoft, and we are really grateful for that. But if we can also have more sponsors on board, so that it becomes easier to also share the information. Sometimes we have a very good presentation, but we could not record it because there was the tool needs to be paid. So if we can at least get sponsors there that can help us, then we'll be able to have more reach, and also it makes the organizing of the events a little bit easier. So yeah, I think that's my my request.
That's a really good question. And indeed, maybe something we should discuss on the Foojay Slack. So all the people interested in OpenJDK can join the Foojay Slack. We on the free platform, again, sponsoring. We are on the free platform, but that means that we can have as many people as we want, just not the full history, I think.
Yes,
And
no, the history drops off.
of 90 days, I think. And there is a JUG channel indeed. So people who are interested in joining a JUG or organizing a JUG or have questions can also join this channel. I will also add a link to the show notes to the Slack channel. Okay, thanks a lot. Enjoying the very warm weather on your side.
Thank you. Oh, thank you, Frank, for inviting us and doing this. I think it's just another way to make people aware of Java. It's not as if Java doesn't have the momentum to survive and continue, but I think there are people stuck in the wrong place, and they might enjoy their work a lot more if they were using something with both longevity and vigorous renewal that Java is in at the moment.
Yeah. Or already using Java, but are stuck to some older version and are not aware of all the evolution. And I want to thank you.
We will have a moment of silence for the people stuck on Java 5.
That's one of the nice messages that the JUGs are spreading, that Java is evolving fast and that a lot of new tools, improvements in performance, in developer experience are all part of the new Java. Let's call it like that. Okay. Thank you both for your time.
And I also want to say thank you as well, for inviting us and taking your time doing this. It's not easy. You'd have to sacrifice and make sure everything is in order, and all there's also post-production that's going to happen after this and all that. So we really appreciate. And I think I will also follow on the Foojay and everything that's getting involved. I'm hoping to be also more involved and follow up on the updates.
And thank you for your time, because I learn from each recording that I make. So and that's exactly why I'm doing this. Thanks a lot. Have a nice day. And thank you also the listeners of this podcast. Keep an eye on Foojay for future articles and podcasts about development and everything related to the Java world. Thanks for listening.
Give me a Foo, give me a J, give me the friends of OpenJDK.